the war in Israel began, and since the war in Ukraine began, you've had quite a lot of people who are very against both in different ways.
Yes.
Do you think you've had enough people on who are supportive of either war?
I don't know that word enough, if that's a good word.
Let's say enough people who are on the side of Israel instead of wild critics of Israel.
Well, I've had a few. I mean, I believe God Sad is on the side of Israel.
For sure.
Jordan is on the side of Israel.
You had Mike Baker, Coleman Hughes.
Yeah.
Coleman did it for like 20 minutes, so it wasn't why he was here.
No. I mean, none of them. And none of them is why they're here. You know? It's a good question.
Do you think you've tilted one way?
Me personally?
No. Just with the guests you've had.
The guests? Yeah, probably more tilted towards the idea that perhaps the way they've done it is barbaric.
Mm-hmm. But why do you think that is, just out of interest? I'm just interested in your selection of guests because you're like the world's number one podcast. So
yeah, it's not... I don't think about it that way. I just think I'd like to talk to this person.
But...
Would Joe Rogan let a fake BJJ black belt take his place and fill in for a UFC fight night? Of course not. He'd roast the guy and shut it down before he ever got the seat. Because when it comes to combat sports, Joe Rogan cares and understands how important experience is. But recently, when it comes to Gaza and Israel and the war on terror, suddenly we're listening to podcasters and comedians who I love, who've never set foot in the Middle East, pretend that they've got it all figured out. And here's the truth. Yes, you absolutely need to go to the region to see what's really happening on the ground. The information you're being fed online is edited propaganda. The challenge is Hamas only lets you see what they want you to see, and everything is filtered through them. They run the media. They run the hospitals. They run the ministries. Hamas is the government of Gaza. Let me explain. Their entire war strategy is built around villainizing Israel by suiciding their own people for the sake of martyrdom. That's not theory. That's doctrine. And they use their civilians as human shields to trigger global outrage when Israel responds. And it works because the footage you're seeing was produced and curated by Hamas. They've duped the entire world. And here's what they don't want you to know, but I'm going to tell you. Gaza's population has quadrupled since 1970. The average age in Gaza is 18. Hamas uses children as human shields because it makes for better headlines. If it bleeds, it leads. Hamas has built 500 plus miles of terror tunnels, but not a single bomb shelter for civilians. Every school, every mosque and hospital they fire from, deliberate war crime with a PR strategy attached. Now, go back to that MMA analogy. Joe, imagine this. Some guy comes on the show claiming to be a fight expert, never trained, never sparred, just watches the highlight reels and then breaks down a UFC title bout based on a bootleg video edited by one of the fighter's PR teams. You would shut it down because you were at the actual fight, not watching online reports put out by Hamas. So why is it any different when someone comes on your show pretending to be an expert on Gaza or claiming that they're not, but speaks extensively on it, framing it as if they are, when they've never seen a Qassam rocket in the air? Douglas Murray's been there. I've been there. Now, Douglas didn't do a great job on your pod. I think he did his best. So no, you can't really have an informed opinion online, Joe. You have to go there to see what's real and what's BS. Douglas Murray said it best in his recent New York Post op-ed. If I had gone on Rogan's podcast and held myself out as an expert in MMA fighting, I suspect the world would have noticed. Well, Douglas, I agree with you. Rogan's fans don't tolerate fake black belts. I don't tolerate fake black belts. Why tolerate fake war analysts? And no disrespect to the comedians. I love comedy. But you've got to stand up to these comedians, the armchair philosophers, and the self-declared anti-war activists who have zero military background, zero regional experience, and zero knowledge of actual terrorist doctrine. But they speak with conviction, so it sounds legit. Welcome to the world of podcast entertainment. The line is muddled. They say ceasefire with passion, so people assume they must be the voice of reason. Dave Smith literally said, Israel's response is disproportionate. Let me hit that. Hamas launched thousands of rockets at Israeli cities on purpose. Then they went house to house executing civilians, filming it, celebrating it. That's not asymmetry. That is evil. And calling Israel's response too much while ignoring the Hamas crimes, that's not peace advocacy. It's literal propaganda. And why Dave does it, I still haven't put my finger on it, but I'm looking very close. And the scariest part is that these fake experts, they're convincing millions. Now, Joe, I want to talk about you. You've never fought in the UFC, have you? But you've earned your place behind the mic. You train hard, man. I saw those tapes. You were an awesome Taekwondo competitor. Crazy kicks. You've got your black belt, legit. You spent years in the gym. You're a BJJ black belt. You've been in the corner. You've been in the culture. You've surrounded yourself with the killers, and you respect the fight game enough to know your lane. So, Joe, here's my question. Why are you letting guys who've never even flown over Israel act like they understand this war? You'd never let someone who's never rolled critique BJJ at the highest level. So why are you letting comic activists analyze hostage rescue ops and counterterrorism battlefield strategy? You would never allow it in the fight world. So why accept it when the stakes are actually life and death and it's not for sport? Look, there's a reason we listen to doctors when we're sick, most of the time. There's a reason we call electricians when the wiring's gone bad in our house. There's a reason, Joe, that you bring on real fighters to break down the UFC cards. Because expertise matters. And because repetition under pressure, it builds authority. Now apply that to the war in Gaza. This isn't a social debate. It's asymmetric urban warfare. And Hamas uses mosques to store rockets. They wire stairwells with IEDs. They hide tunnel shafts in hospitals. You're not going to understand that from an online article. The internet is too porous with nonsense. You understand that by clearing rooms with an M4 in one hand and a terrorist around the corner in Gaza, or speaking to the people who are doing it. But in today's podcast world, clout seems to be replacing credentials. And that brings me to Dave Smith. Dave's a comedian. He might be funny. I've never looked at his material. I hope he is. The Aaron Cohen Show is sponsored by the Cherry's Deep Concealment Holster. This is the same holster I trained Keanu on for the John Wick franchise. This thing runs BWB, or below the waistband, means there is zero digging into your gut, and this holster will never fall off you because it runs below the waistband. Also, lightning fast draw with just a little bit of training. Hit the link down in the description to order one of these bad boys. They ship next day. Zero lead time with these things now. They ship next day. Lightning fast draw. Fits all double stacked 9 and 40 Glocks. Fully adjustable clip and ambidextrous lefties. You're covered. Hit the link down in the description. Grab one of these bad boys. And finally, carry with comfort and total concealment. I want him to make a lot of money being great at comedy, but he's never served. He's never operated in that theater. He's never set foot in Israel or in Gaza. But he sat on your show, Joe. lectured almost 20 million people combined like he was some kind of battlefield strategist. Would you go to a stand-up comic, Joe, to have your knee worked on? I'm sure it's banged up, man, from all those kicks. Would you accept your BJJ black belt rank certificate from someone who's never rolled? That's what happens when you allow Dave Smith or Abby Martin to frame the Gaza conversation. He's not just wrong. She's not just wrong. They're dangerous because when people hear that kind of confidence, they confuse it with truth. They don't realize they're absorbing Hamas-embedded propaganda filtered through a guy whose only credential is comedy and X engagements. This is what happens when we replace real experts with that podcast ego. No disrespect, brother, but that's what it is. Podcast ego. And it's not just irresponsible, it's lethal. So, Joe, ask yourself this, and I want you to be honest. For all your friends, have you ever met a Jew who deliberately wants to hurt or murder innocent people out of your circle? We don't do that, brother. We want to fire up that scoof and hang out and train and just be funny. But I've met Hamas fighters who do. And I've seen them wire the bomb belts to the kids. I've seen them shoot from the windows knowing that there's civilians inside because that's the plan. Joe, that's the literal playbook of Hamas. And that's who your guests are covering for, whether they realize it or not. And that's who you're platforming, whether you realize it or not. So I want to talk about something that most people, especially in the media, still don't understand. Hamas doesn't just fight with rockets. In fact, that's not their main warfare tool. They fight with your camera. They fight with your Instagram and TikTok feed. They fight using your news cycle. Hamas learned this early on. They will never be able to beat Israel militarily. So they fight in the information space. That is their main weapon. They stage the footage. Go look it up. Go hit Memory online, the website Memory. They stage footage. They manipulate the headlines. They play the world like a drum. This isn't collateral damage. This is literal Hamas strategy. They fake the funerals. They reuse the bodies. Go look it up. The footage is everywhere. They drag bleeding kids in front of cameras to manufacture sympathy while launching rockets from behind the very same buildings. You ever notice how Gaza casualty figures are released within minutes after an Israeli strategic strike? Not hours, not days, literally minutes. There's no triage. There's no forensic verification, nothing. Just a clean headline. 372 killed, 168 children, 41 women. How? How is that possible? We have the best forensics in the world, and it still takes us hours to correlate it because Hamas controls the hospitals. They run the morgues. Hamas is the Gaza Health Ministry. And when CNN or BBC or the New York Times or Chris Cuomo quotes these figures, they're not reporting. They're repeating Hamas press releases. That's how it works. So think about it. Hey, are you guys a fan of the Aaron Cohen show? Do me a favor and help support the show and join my sponsorship team. Hit the link down in the description and grab yourself a mini sponsorship package. They start at $25. We're completely independently produced, and every package sold helps keep the lights on in the studio so I can continue to combat that garbage anti-Israel misinformation and propaganda that's out there while bringing you guys no-nonsense, cutting-edge analysis of counterterrorism, the Mideast, and national security. And in just 90 days, the Aaron Cohen show is now the fastest growing counterterrorism and national security show online with over 100,000 subscribers in the first 90 days. And why? Because of you, the fans. Do me a favor, help support the show and join my sponsorship team. Hit the link down in the description and grab yourself a mini sponsorship package and help me to continue to fight that fight. Appreciate you guys. No modern military in the world, including the United States, could verify those numbers that fast. It's impossible. But Hamas can? This tiny little army hiding in tunnels with green bandanas that say Khat al-Mut on the bandana or to the death. But Hamas can't. While under fire, while underground, brother, it's not journalism. This is narrative warfare. And that's how they fight. And Joe, I heard what you said. You suggested some people view Israel's actions as, the word you used was, barbaric. But let's be honest, brother. If Israel wanted to genocide Gaza, Gaza would be gone and everybody in it would be dead. The IDF has the capability to destroy the entire strip and everyone in it in less than 24 hours. They've got the satellites, the Air Force, the artillery grids, the units on the ground. They have enough firepower to wipe out every single neighborhood without even stepping a foot inside Gaza, but we don't. We warn civilians before striking. We have called off missions mid-flight because of civilians. We roof knock, text message, leaflets, phone calls in flawless Arabic from our intelligence agencies to evacuate civilians and non-combatants. What other country fights a war like that? When does any other country fight like that? You know what's barbaric, brother? Breaking into homes and burning babies alive and raping women on camera. Strapping suicide vests on teenagers. There's a documentary about it. Go look it up. The Making of a Martyr. Firing from schools while filming the aftermath for viral sympathy. That is barbaric, Joe. This is not genocide, brother. Not ethnic cleansing. Not even close. Joe, this is counterterrorism. It's a surgical operation against a jihadist death cult that slaughtered 1,200 Israelis and dragged women and children and Holocaust survivors into Gaza and brags about it. So, Joe, when your guests start throwing around words like barbaric and genocide, do me a favor, brother. You got to stop and ask. Are they describing the war or just reciting talking points from Abby Martin and Dave Smith? Really? Because every time a fake expert sits on a podcast and repeats these lies, let me tell you something. Hamas wins. You're working for the terror group and you don't even know it. And your mic, brother, is now the battlefield. And when you hand it to the enemy, even unknowingly, you're not just asking questions. You become inadvertently part of the terror op. Joe, you built your platform on calling out bullshit, man, and on spotting fakes and knowing when someone hasn't earned the right to speak. This is one of those moments, man. You wouldn't let a fake black belt break down a fight. Don't let fake experts break down this war. You got too much respect, man. We all love you. And I want to thank you for listening, Joe. And before I go, this is my memoir. It's called Brotherhood of Warriors. It's about my time in Israeli special operations, undercover, inside the worst terror neighborhoods in the world, and everything that I've seen up close, and it's all through an American optic. I grew up in LA. And if you really want to understand what's happening in Gaza right now, do me a favor, brother. Start here. I want to thank you, Joe, for listening. I want to thank my audience for listening to this one. There's a lot of dangerous things happening right now, permeating, and I'm going to come back to this. This is a new front that's opening up in the war on terror. We've got to be honest about it. I'm Aaron Cohen. You're watching the Aaron Cohen Show, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.